It's time for our League One power rankings. And we can start off number 6, starting from the bottom of the league again. For myself, I have Omaha as my number 6 in the league.
It's tough.
Yeah.
I do also have Omaha at 6.
Yeah.
This is really rough. I don't think people would have expected them to be down here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they've lost their last 4 official games.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a really rough showing for them as of late.
Yeah. I don't exactly know what's going on with the team, but everyone kind of expected them to be like one of the top tier teams because they have the names that they have on this team are insane. And I'm sure you can blame a little bit of it on some injuries, but they still have a lot of their main roster available. So it's weird to have to put them at the bottom, but just the way that they've been looking, they're throwing away games basically. They're not looking locked in. I mean, if someone was to have the criticism exists for this league where it kind of looks like exhibition games. I think that Omaha is right now looks like one of the teams that every game that they play, it's like almost like an exhibition game. I'll say Jordan Larson, she does look like she really wants to win. She's getting mad about their losses, but it's in the end, I don't know how much she can do, and I don't know how much that atmosphere is carrying over to everyone else.
Yeah, and for me, I think it really is the offense. I've just been harping on it the whole time, this whole season. I just feel that they've been struggling offensively where they really look one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And they've been having a lot of trouble putting the ball down. I feel like that is not going to be good when you're facing a lot of these other teams. And I feel like the defense of the other teams have just been so good that Omaha is struggling because of the fact that they can't put the ball down. Because I don't think they have many issues in their serve receive.
Yeah.
So it's not that they can't run the middles or that they can't be in system. Because you see them run the middle, and I think maybe that's something to me that can help them improve is getting the middles going, and hopefully they can be a little bit more dominant.
Middle is definitely where the injuries have really been affecting them a little bit more. So it's weird for them there, and it sucks that they are injured, but you just have to you have to hold it against them if their middles can't play. I mean, or if they're coming in and out of the rotation week in, week out. It's tough to say that they have good firepower, especially in the middle. They don't look quite right. I think Herrera just came back their last game, and I think she looked not 100%. She didn't look as dynamic. I think they had a couple of misconnections just because I don't think she was jumping as high as she normally does. So sometimes I think there was one time where it just overset her, and she was like, "Oh, missed the ball," and what can you do?
Yeah, and the offense is just trying to set Drevniak and hoping that it works out.
Yeah, Cubic Banks has looked being added into the starting lineup. I think she's looked a little bit better, a little bit more consistent, better than I expected for sure. But right now, it just doesn't seem like enough quite yet.
Yeah, and to give her credit, I think she actually has been a little bit of a spark plug when she was inserted in the starting lineup. I think they did start to show a little bit more energy because she is going to swing.
Yeah,
and she's going to try her best. And now it's just, can anyone else,
help out,
keep up that energy and actually help them take over and try and win some games. But it's been a rough showing for them.
Yeah, I think I've also mentioned this before, but Drevniak has looked tired sometimes, but that's also just due to the volume that they're giving her and kind of the situations where they're forcing the ball on her and the sets aren't exactly perfect. So she's making a lot of really athletic plays to try and attack the ball still, not give free balls. And it looks like it's just, I don't know, it looks exhausting. So I can't blame her for anything. I think she's really good.
I mean, whenever you open up the box score, I feel like it's not surprising for me to see her taking 40+ swings.
Yeah.
For every match that she's been playing in.
It's a little bit too much, especially given the quality of sets that sometimes she's forced to deal with.
Yeah, and it's just tough when the other team knows what you're gonna do.
Yeah,
they know when she's gonna get set, so they're able to get their defense set, and it's gonna be a lot harder for her to try and put points down.
Yeah. So Omaha, unfortunately, just has to be stuck down here at number 6, and we both agree on that. So we can move on to our number 5s.
All right, so for number 5, I have Salt Lake.
That's interesting.
I feel like for Salt Lake, they have had a rough time. As of late, they have won some of their games, but I think it's notable to say that one of them was against Omaha, so that's why I have them higher.
Yeah.
But also, they played a Houston team that wasn't playing their starting lineup.
The Houston team was basically just subs at that point.
So to me, that win wasn't as convincing, and I just think some of the other teams might be doing a little bit better right now.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to truly rank them with these past couple games, just because they've been like, not waste games, but kind of like throwaway games. I don't have them at my number 5, but I can see why it's hard to judge them, and you'd have to leave them a little bit lower. But for my number 5, this is where I put Austin. Austin is my favorite team, so maybe I'm just being a little bit extra harsh on them, but I think just because of the coaching change and things are looking a little bit more confusing for them, I think I had to put Austin down here until they're able to fully figure it out with the coaching aspect. So I think that they have looked a little bit out of sorts recently, which is why I put them at number 5. And they definitely have the potential to move up a lot. I just think, as of right now, Austin can look confused on the court. I think Austin still has to use both setters sometimes, because on any given night, the setting may not match up with what the game plan is, maybe from the coach, or maybe what they think they're running with their players. So it's hard to find something cohesive to think about Austin right now, because so much is changing.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. They did have a very good showing at the beginning of the season, and it's been wavering just a little bit. And again, the coaching change is going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I think the issue with that is obviously we're past the halfway point of the season.
Yeah.
So now it's time to get things in gear. And at this point, you would hope that chemistry and coaching stuff is not the problem.
Yeah, they might be the only team that is truly stuck in this like weird situation.
Yeah, I think as of right now, they do have their lineups usually set up, but now it's, how can we get all of our systems in place? And I think maybe that's one thing that's holding them back, at least for now.
Yeah, so I'm just being a little bit extra critical of them. That's why I have them at number 5. So we can move on to our number 4s. For number 4, this is where I put Madison.
And I also had Madison at number 4.
So I think Madison's been looking a lot better recently, but just because of how things looked for them at the beginning of the season, I want to see a little bit more before I keep pushing them further and further up. But they do look very good right now.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite team, I was thinking about a way I could try and get them to 3, but I had to be honest with myself.
Yeah.
I kept them at 4, but I think this is a really good spot for them. As of right now, they are at the bottom of the standings, but I think they are on the up. I think this is the team that is threatening to enter top 3. I think purely because of the fact that Annie Schumacher is healthy.
Yep.
She's looking really good. She's looking at her like peak form right now. And I think the offense is starting to click. I think the middles are starting to get going. And the defense is looking a lot better. I think with Medved subbing in, she has been really solid for them in the back row. And they've been looking a lot better. I think you can always tell how they're doing when Carlini is either she's looking really mad or she's looking happy and super energetic.
Yeah.
And at this point, we are getting the super energetic, really hyped up Carlini. And I think that's what we want to see.
Yep, there's a lot more fun to watch. So I'm glad that they look up a lot better, because this is one of the teams that I projected to be kind of in contention. So I think it's good to see them looking a lot better, but I just had to leave them at number 4 for right now, with a lot of potential to move up.
Yeah.
And that takes us to our number 3s. And I think maybe number 3 is where we swapped our teams, because number 3 is where I have Salt Lake.
And I have Austin at number 3.
So it's just, these are the teams where it gets a little bit weirder. I think Salt Lake, just because we haven't seen them I think for Salt Lake, we just haven't seen them truly playing against competition, like full competition these past couple weeks. I think that in these games, obviously they're taking advantage of the situation and they look good in those games, So I gave them the nod so far to give them number 3, but that's just because everything's a little bit in flux towards the middle of the pack.
And that's kind of why I had Salt Lake at 5, was just because I was so unsure about how legitimate the team is at this point. Just because of the games that they've had to play. Obviously, they have to play the team that is in front of them.
Yeah.
So credit to them that they have been winning those games. But it was just really difficult for me to judge how good this team is right now. But for Austin, maybe it's because I'm a Chris McGowan believer. I really do believe in his coaching. But I think there were some struggles against Atlanta. But to me, it was Atlanta that they played against. That is one of their that is, to me, the best team in the league still. And they had some moments where it did look very good. So that's kind of why I still gave them number 3.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's super weird with things being a little bit in flux for all these middle of the pack teams. So I think it's fine to have these rankings a little on the same tier and just a little mixed up.
Yeah, and just the note for Austin, I feel that maybe it's weird and giving them the benefit of the doubt that maybe they can still improve halfway through the season because of the new coaching change. I don't really know.
Yeah. They have like the biggest, it feels like they have the biggest variance available like for the rest of the season. So they can probably jump up a lot and look really, really good, or they could still be looking really confused and not quite figure things out by the end.
Yeah, I hope that they don't crumble.
Yeah.
But I think you still have to keep that as a possibility.
Yep. So I think that's just understandable for our number 3, number 4, number 5 all together. And now we can move on to our top 2. We'll just reveal them both at the same time. At number 2, I have Houston, and number 1, I have Atlanta.
And I had this exact same. I had Houston at number 2, and then Atlanta at number 1.
Yep. So I don't think it's difficult to understand why we'd put them here. Houston, anytime that they play their starting lineup, their main lineup, Houston looks almost unstoppable. And then similar thing with Atlanta. It's just they're a very tenacious team, and they have some of the best offense in the league. They have amazing blocking, insane defense. I think Atlanta looks like the most complete team, and then Houston just has the biggest offensive weapon, and then the most aggressive setter also in Micah Hancock.
I kind of gave it to Atlanta to be number 1 here just because of the totality of their season. I think they came out the gates after week 1. They have just looked amazing. And they haven't really shown, many parts where they haven't looked that good.
Yeah.
Besides maybe the Classic. But after that, I think they've looked very good. And that's kind of the only reason why I had them above Houston. Because Houston has looked very, very good when they are healthy. And they're playing their full lineup. That is my only thing why I had Houston at 2 is we just haven't seen them play their full lineup consistently enough yet. Where I'm always going to give them, where I would have put them at number 1 instead. Yeah,
since the Classic, I think they've been like kind of 50-50 on playing their full lineup. So it's a little bit weird to, obviously when they are playing the full lineup, they look like an insane team. But just when they're taking games off, and it's just, you don't want to give it to them for doing that.
Yeah. And just for Atlanta, I think, again, with Kelsey Cook, I feel like she's done a wonderful job leading. And that team just looks so solid. They really don't have many moments where it doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
I think the only point to give them is they did get reverse swept by Houston last week, which I think is kind of huge. Maybe that would have switched the rankings a little bit for me, but I still have to consider that Atlanta is still playing hurt. They don't have Tessa Groves.
Yeah, I think
Danielle Coutinho has still looked very, very good for them.
Yeah, and I think part of it is that in terms of that right side spot, it feels like Danielle Coutinho is still figuring out her role in the team, so she still does have that upward ceiling that she can have. Or when Tessa Grubbs comes back, that's another big improvement that they can have. So I mean, I think that they belong at number 1 just because they still have the room to grow, and we've seen it sometimes. Danielle Coutinho sometimes has those insane games, and then obviously Tessa Grubbs has had those crazy games towards the beginning of the season before she got hurt. So I think when they're fully acclimated, fully ready, maybe it's a little bit of a projection, which isn't correct for the current power rankings, but in the same way, Houston isn't always playing their full lineup, even if they had the head-to-head matchup win.
Yeah, it makes Houston a little bit harder to judge.
Yeah.
Just because of that. But Coutinho has slid in very, very well. I think she has been the huge offensive punch that they were looking for when Tessa Groves went down. You know, they were thinking maybe we can still get it from the outsides. But Coutinho, they set her in the back row, and you can see her. She is flying in, and she is ripping balls down.
Yeah, I think the one knock would be that sometimes she has consistency issues, but I think that's not exactly on her. I think sometimes she's just misconnecting with like the setting, which I think is just also a product of Rachel Fairbanks getting injured. So it's been Maddie Bug, and maybe Danielle Coutinho wasn't fully used to that. So I think whenever they start figuring things out, they get fully healthy, I think they belong at number 1. So that's our League One power rankings. Let us know what you guys think, and if you have something completely different from what either of us have.